the net filtration rate is important in terms of glomerular filtration rate. We talked about what is it, how it is calculated, and how it is being regulated also in the previous class. So this class so today's class, we will be talking mainly about the relationship between the glomerular filtration rate and the renal blood flow. Okay, and before that, we will be talking about some of the disorders which actually affect the renal blood flow. They may not be a complete explanation of all the disorders, but few disorders which you will be able to understand at this level. Okay, I will not take in detail about the clearance technique because I think a renal blood kidney function tests or renal function tests have been taken in quite detail by biochemistry department. I will just focus on one aspect of it, but to a very limited extent, because that part also, clearance also has been explained by the biochemistry department. My main focus will be the disorders which affect the glomerular filtration rate to some extent, and we will be talking how it is related or regulated by the renal blood flow. These are the two main things what we will be talking in depth. Rest, clearance has been dealt in detail by the biochemistry department. So I'll just give an overview of that. Now, the clinical significance of the proteinuria, that means when the urine is being excreted, a protein is being excreted in the urine because of various defects. Now, this defect can occur at in specifically can be early detection in certain patients which are termed as high risk patients or at risk patients, specifically people who are having chronic hypertension. These hypertensive patients in subsequent year of time do develop the hypertension, which leads to renal disease. And the first sign where we can say that the kidney is getting affected is when they have urine in their a protein in their urine. The second is diabetic people, diabetic mellitus people, where they will have protein in their urine as a diabetic nephropathy. Similarly, those who are suffering from gestational proteinuric hypertension, also termed as pre-eclampsia or even eclampsia, which occurs during the pregnancy or after the pregnancy, they also, the first sign, clinical importance is proteinuria. Even during the annual checkup, if the patient is having proteinuria, that really gives a clinical indication that the patient probably is suffering from any renal disease. So it basically acts as an early detection. It also acts as an assessment or diagnosis of the renal disease, even for the monitoring of the renal disease. That means, say for example, we know that this patient is suffering from one particular renal disease and you are treating. Whether the treatment is going in a positive manner or it is worsening or it is remaining same, we need to go for the prognosis. So there are certain renal tests which will tell you in which proteinuria is also one of the tests, which will help you to identify how the prognosis of the disease in the patient after the treatment is going on. So that is the clinical significance and measurement of the proteinuria. There are various ways. One is urinary dipstick. You have a dipstick and you can trace. It can be negative. It can be from trace, that means 15 to 30 milligram per deciliter, or it can go up to 4+ grade, showing that it is a heavy proteinuria more than 1000 milligram per day. Now, this dip protein test may not be very accurate. Trace results can be normal or positive. So we need to have a confirmatory test by a quantitative lab diagnosis. But if the person is having 2+ to 4+, definitely dipstick test can be one of the immediate tests to diagnose it. Another thing, microalbuminuria. You remember one of the disorder which I explained, which is hereditary microalbuminuria, where there is defect in the negativity development at the capillary endothelial level. There's a defect which affects, and this is being identified by the microscopic examination only of that part of the globule. Right? So urine excretion of more than 30 but less than 150 milligram of albumin per day is basically termed as microalbuminuria. This is very important sign. The causes for having a microalbuminuria is first the hereditary disease that is obviously there, but even hypertension, glomerular hyperfiltrate is there. Even it can be an early detection sign for patient who is suffering from diabetes. Then it can be even a prognostic test for the diabetic patients, where it is 10 to 20-fold more likely to develop when there is a persistent proteinuria in those patients. So it can act as a prognostic test for those patients. You can see here I have kept two glomerular capillary tuft, or the Bowman with the Bowman's capsule. You can see here, this is the normal glomerulus, and this is the diabetic glomerulopathy, a patient suffering from diabetic glomerulopathy. You can see how thick the endothelial layer is. You can see the thickness of the endothelial glomerular filtrate layer is very, very thick. Once the thickness increases, as you know, by the Fick's law of diffusion, what is going to happen? The filtrate process from the glomerular capillaries to the Bowman capsular phase is going to get decreased. So Bowman capillary hydrostatic pressure, normally it remains static and it is always less than that of the glomerular hydrostatic pressure. If you remember, the glomerular hydrostatic pressure was around 45 to 55, while that of the capsular, it was around 10. So normally change, whenever there is a change in it, not as per the physiological point of view, but as far as the clinical point of view. Say, for example, there is a kidney stone which is obstructing the renal pelvis. So it is not allowing the fluid which has been filtered out by the PCT, loop of Henle, DCT, went to the collecting duct, but it is not moving down to the ureter. Now, it can be either because of the kidney stone, ureteric stone, or because of the tubular necrosis, either way around. So there is a tubular obstruction, and this tubular obstruction will in turn increase the hydrostatic pressure in the Bowman's capsule. And you know that what will happen to the once the hydrostatic pressure in the Bowman capsule increases, it will prevent the filtration. It will prevent more of the movement of the fluid going directly to the efferent artery. So it will inhibit it will hamper the glomerular filtration rate. Even if there is the other examples which can hamper or change the hydrostatic pressure in the Bowman capsule is urinary tract obstruction. Like I said, whenever there is urethral stone, there is prostatic hypertrophy, or there is prostatic carcinoma. So urine outflow will be decreased, and then there will be a backflow to the kidneys. You can see here, this is hydronephrotic kidney. Why it is so? Because of the urethral stone or obstruction. You can see how this is a normal, slightly raised, but here you can see how enlarged the renal pelvis is. So it is causing a back pressure on the Bowman capsule of the glomerular tuft of each and every nephron. Now what is happening? The hydrostatic pressure on the Bowman's capsule there will increase. So it will oppose the rate of filtration. So their glomerular filtrate rate will be modified. It will be decreased to a very great extent. So these are some of the clinical implications which actually affect the glomerular filtration rate in an individual, or a disease state which affect the glomerular filtration rate. Now, just a brief about the clearance, which although I think in biochemistry it has been explained. Is this part clear? Is this part clear about the disease, how the disease is affecting, different diseases are affecting? I may not be able to take each and every disease, but these are just few examples which you might encounter in your subsequent clinical rotation of second year or maybe final year, which you should keep in mind. If the patient is having this for a very longer time, longer duration of a time, it might have affect the GFR. So that what this is to tell you that why you should be knowing about GFR in great detail, being in a medical profession. Okay, good. So you have understood it. Now clearance, the clearance is being described as the rate at which the substances are removed or cleaned off or cleared out from the plasma. Now renal clearance of a substance is the volume of the plasma completely cleaned of that substance per minute by the kidneys. How cleanly it is, completely it is being removed from the plasma. This is the formula for the calculating the renal clearance. CS is the renal clearance of any particular substance. What is PS? PS is the plasma concentration of that substance, and that plasma, the product of this should be equal to the concentration of the substance in the urine multiplied by the urine flow rate. right? So this is how we calculate the renal clearance from using one particular substrate. Normally, what we use, will not go into the details here. Normally, the GFR is being calculated by certain filtrates which are neither reabsorbed, they are neither secreted in the tubular part of the, once they get filtered, they are completely filtered and they are freely filterable, and they are neither reabsorbed, neither being secreted into the tubular lumen. Those substances are normally taken up, and this is the formula how to calculate the GFR, which is equal to GFR is equal to the urinary output of that particular substance, or the concentration of that particular substance in the urine multiplied by the volume of the urine divided by the concentration of that particular substance in the plasma. Normally, inulin is being used for identifying the renal clearance because it is freely filterable, and it is neither reabsorbed, neither being secreted. So amount of filtrate per minute is equal to the amount of substance being excreted in the urine per minute. It is almost equal. So it is not being metabolized, it is not being stored, it does not affect the filtration rate, and its concentration is easily being measured. That is why we use inulin as a substrate. So what is happening? The inulin, once you insert the inulin, a specific concentration of the inulin is present in the blood, which we calculate as P inulin. Then it gets completely filtered. It is neither being reabsorbed, neither being secreted in any part of the tubular system of the nephron, and it gets excreted out via the renal vein completely. So if I know how much inulin I have inserted, then I can just take the blood sample, identify the plasma concentration of inulin, and then in the urine, also by the urine sample, we can calculate the urine flow, and we can have the GFR. Okay, that will tell us about the clearance of inulin. Normal, in a normal healthy individual, it's around 125 ml per minute. That is the normal value, or we can say 7.5 liters per hour. Right? You should know how to calculate it in liters per minute, milliliters per minute, per second, per hour. That's a very simple mathematical formula. They are biologically inert, they are not toxic. This substance is freely filterable, not bound to the plasma protein, and not metabolized to any other substance in the body system as a whole. Completely reabsorbed. It's not being reabsorbed, it's not being secreted by the tubular nephron. So this is how it actually works. So it is a glomerular marker. There are many other substances like inulin which can be used as the glomerular marker to calculate the GFR. Like one is mannitol, sorbitol, sucrase, but sucrase need to be given IV. Radioactive cobalt labeled with vitamin B12, 51 chromium labeled EDTA, radioiodine labeled hyperpac. These are some of the substances which are being used. We'll not go into the details. But I would like to explain that the renal blood flow can be measured by using the Fick's principle. And imagine about one particular organ, whether it is a liver, it is a kidney, it's a generalized principle. It will be talked in detail how to calculate the plasma flow or blood flow in any particular part of the body by Fick's law of diffusion and cardiovascular system. I'll just give you an overview that the flow is equal to the amount of the substance removed per minute divided by the difference in the arteriolar and venous plasma concentration of that particular substance. That is how we calculate the blood flow to that particular organ. So what you do, you insert one particular substance. So you know how much amount of the substance is being inserted into the blood of an individual. Then you withdraw the blood from, after some time, you withdraw the blood from the arterial end, from the venous end, find the difference in the concentration between the arterial and the venous plasma of that particular substance and insert it into the, as a formula. It is an invasive technique. Nowadays, we don't use it. We do have specialized ultrasonographic techniques where we can identify how the amount of the perfusion going to one particular substance. Okay, so this was the Fick's principle. Again, the clearance now here it is being shown by a substance which is termed as PAH, para-aminohippuric acid. The only issue with this is that although it is being excreted all through, but it is being filtered partially and partially it is being secreted from the renal tubules. So it is not considered to be an ideal substance, but we can use it. Okay, this is also one of the marker which can be used to calculate the renal clearance. Fine. So this is what happens. Mostly being filtered, partially being secreted out, finally getting excreted out from the urine, para-aminohippuric acid. Urea clearance is being identified, which is less than 125 ml per minute. Why is it so? Because it is partially being reabsorbed in the tubular system. It's not ideal, but yes, you can use this also. Certain substances are not used to identify the clearance rate, like sodium, glucose, bicarbonate, amino acids, and chlorides, because these are being reabsorbed to a very great extent by the tubular system. So which substance we can use? The best will be inulin, which is neither reabsorbed, neither being secreted. That will give a clear idea about the clearance of inulin, will actually give us the almost exact idea about the glomerular filtration rate. Okay. Now, filtration fraction, as you know, filtration fraction is nothing but it is a ratio of glomerular filtration rate divided by the renal perfusion fraction or renal perfusion flow. It can be calculated by identifying the clearance of the inulin and dividing it by the clearance of the para-aminohippuric acid. This is another way to calculate it. Clinically, when we talk about in a clinical renal disease patient or in any patient, we do not inject inulin and try to find out the inulin clearance. We calculate it by creatinine clearance. Okay, creatinine is a normal product of the muscle metabolism, and it is basically being used to calculate, to have an approximate fair idea how well the kidney is going as far as the filtration is concerned. Now, although creatinine, it is not an ideal substance for this purpose, but why is it not an ideal substance for this purpose? Because it is not only filtered, but it is also being secreted in the tubular component to some extent. So it cannot be considered as an ideal indicator, but it can be used because we need not insert it. It is already present in the blood. So there is a slight amount of 10% of error from the value what we attain by identifying the creatinine clearance. So this is what exactly we find if there is a plasma creatinine concentration, and we can find the glomerular filtration rate. So change in the plasma creatinine concentration actually as a function of glomerular filtration rate is well depicted here. You can see here. The rate of creatinine production, which is assumed to remain constant, approximately it should be around 1.8 grams per day, or we can say it should be around 1.3 milligram per minute. If the value increases, that means there is a defect in the filtrate level mainly, although it can be because of the secretion aspect in the tubules itself, but main defect we consider it having at the glomerular level. Okay. So this is how the creatinine clearance, normally the value calculated by the creatinine clearance for the GFR, it's around 140 ml per minute. So it's more than what is an ideal, but it can give a fair idea. Not exact, but very close idea, because 125, 140 is almost very close. So if there is any change, it more than 140 ml per minute, then you should come to an idea there is some defect in the glomerular capillary level, which is affecting the overall filtration rate. Okay, we'll not go into the details. This you have already talked about. So I hope this part of clearance is well understood. Yes, is it understood? See, major part of the renal function test has been done by the biochemistry. Even they have explained about the creatinine clearance and maybe inulin clearance. But I just wanted to tell you that how it is affecting, how it actually reflects the disease process in a patient who is having a renal defect. Any question, any query coming out as far as the clearance part is concerned? नहीं, कोई क्वेश्चन नहीं है? नो तो लिख दो, मुझे पता चले कि आप लोग सुन रहे हो. Okay, that's great. That's great. Okay, so no question. So it's clearly understood. Good. Okay. Explain that the renal blood flow is around 20 to 25% of the cardiac output, and this is very large compared to any other organ of the body. So this renal blood flow actually is a very important determinant to identify the glomerular filtration rate at the nephron. Whenever there is any change in the renal blood flow, it directly affects the glomerular filtration rate. Now, why is it so? Because renal blood flow also modifies the solute and the water reabsorption, right? And whatever is being delivered to as a nutrient to the nephron cells, वो भी affect होगा, क्योंकि वो blood flow केवल filtration के लिए नहीं जा रहा है, जिससे उनको nutrients मिलते हैं, oxygen मिलता है, so that they can function, they can do their function in a better manner. So it directly affects as well as indirectly, it has an indirect effect as well. So the God actually has created something which is termed as an auto-regulatory mechanism. That means the renal blood flow has an auto-regulatory mechanism which maintains the GFR when the pressure is as low as 80 mmHg, or it can go as high as 180 mmHg. Now this 80 and 180, this is not the systolic or a diastolic blood pressure. It is the mean arterial blood. Usually the mean arterial blood pressure should be around 100 mmHg, but it can vary from 80 to 180, and this variation is even if there is such a huge variation in the renal vascular component as vascular resistance, whether at the afferent arteriolar end or the interlobular end or the efferent arterial, anywhere it is, which changes the renal blood flow, still it has the capability to auto-regulate the glomerular filtration rate. इसका मतलब है अगर renal blood flow 100 से 80 तक भी जाता है तब भी GFR 125 ml per minute रहता है, और अगर वो 180 तक भी जाता है तो भी renal blood जो glomerular filtration rate है उसमें इतना ज्यादा major drastic effect नहीं पड़ेगा. Once it goes beyond 180, definitely it will have a major change in the glomerular filtration rate. If it goes below 80, then again it will reflect a major setback or decrease in the glomerular filtration rate. तब तक between 80 to 180 वो उसको खुद ब खुद कंट्रोल करने की कोशिश करता है, which is termed as an auto regulation. Now this auto regulation is because of mainly because of two components. One is the myogenic mechanism and one is the tubuloglomerular feedback. If you remember, मैंने third lecture में मैंने कंट्रोल ऑफ GFR बाय द रीनल ब्लड फ्लो बताया था, जिसमें मैंने न्यूरो हार्मोनल मैकेनिज्म बताया था, लोकल इंट्रिंसिक मैकेनिज्म बताए थे, जहां पर प्रोस्टाग्लैंडिन रिलीज होते हैं जिससे वेजोडाइलेटेशन होता है, एपिनेफ्रिन और एपिनेफ्रिन के लिए वेजोकंस्ट्रिक्शन होता है, डोपामिन जो है वो एक ट्रांसमीटर है जिस कारण से रीनल वेजोडाइलेटेशन हो जाता है, right? That is a specific renal vasodilator. उसके अलावा ADH है which causes the vasodilatation, vasoconstriction, epinephrine और epinephrine उन components से vasoconstriction होता है, angiotensin 2 से वजह से इफेक्ट आता है, राइट? सो दीज आर द इवन सिंपैथेटिक एक्टिविटी अगर बढ़ जाती है तो भी वेजोकंस्ट्रिक्शन हो जाता है, अगर पैरासिम्पैथेटिक एक्टिविटी बढ़ती है तो वेजोडाइलेटेशन हो जाता है. So these were the neuronal, hormonal and local intrinsic control mechanism which we have already talked about. As already said, sympathetic इफेक्ट करता है, एंजियोटेंसिन 2 बेसिकली इफेक्ट करता है. मान लीजिए बहुत सारा हेमरेज हुआ, ब्लड फ्लो लॉस हुआ, तो रीनल ब्लड फ्लो डिक्रीज हो जाएगा तो GFR डिक्रीज हो जाएगा. मान लीजिए हम वॉल्यूम डिप्लीशन है, किसी भी कारण से वॉल्यूम डिप्लीशन है, सोडियम लो है, सो एंजियोटेंसिन इज गोइंग टू इफेक्ट, राइट? Prostaglandin E2, again it will cause vasodilatation, which in turn increases the renal blood flow, increases the GFR. Similarly, dopamine, again it increases, causes the vasodilatation in the renal blood flow, again it increases the GFR. Endothelial derived nitric oxide, what exactly it protects against jab excessive, it is basically a vasodilator. What actually it does, it basically protects the renal to have an excessive vasoconstriction, ताकि एंजियोटेंसिन 2 अगर मान लीजिए सिक्रीट आउट होता है तो वो बहुत सारा वेजोकंस्ट्रिक्शन कर सकता है, जिस कारण से जीएफआर डिक्रीज होने का चांस है। तो लोकली एंडोथेलियल डेराइव्ड नाइट्रिक ऑक्साइड रिलीज हो जाता है जो वेजोडाइलेट करने की कोशिश करता है, जिस कारण से रीनल ब्लड फ्लो बढ़ता है और जीएफआर भी बढ़ता है। सो इट इज ट्राइंग टू मेंटेन अ बैलेंस। Similarly, endothelial cells again, they will cause decreased blood flow because of vasoconstricting effect. So these basically are trying to tell you that whenever there are failures, whether it is a hepatic failure or it is a renal failure or failure of the kidney because of chronic hypertension, these all will actually initially try to maintain the GFR as much as possible by vasoconstricting or vasodilatory components of secreted at the level of the renal glomerular duct. So this is an overview. ये अभी तक हमने सारा पढ़ लिया था। अब हम ऑटो रेगुलेटरी मैकेनिज्म ऑफ द renal blood flow which controls the GFR. It automatically regulates the GFR ranging between 80 when the renal blood flow, the mean arterial blood flow to the renal system is going from 80 to 180 millimeter of mercury. So there is a myogenic mechanism, there is a maculodensa tubulo glomerular feedback mechanism भी इसको बोलते हैं। एंजियोटेंसिन 2 हम ऑलरेडी पढ़ चुके हैं, राइट। नाउ इंट्रिंसिक फिनोमेना हमने आइडेंटिफाई, आप कहते हैं कि भाई हम रीनल ऑटो रेगुलेटरी मैकेनिज्म क्यों बोल रहे हैं? हम इसलिए बोल रहे हैं कि ये किडनी खुद करती है, उसको कोई नर्वस कंट्रोल नहीं करता है। अब इसके लिए एक एक्सपेरिमेंट किया गया कि किडनी को जो भी नर्व्स इनर्वेट करती है उनको ब्लॉक किया गया, डीनर्वेशन ऑफ द किडनी किया गया। इन स्पाइट ऑफ डीनर्वेटिंग द किडनी, फिर भी ये इंट्रिंसिक फिनोमेना देखा गया है। Still the kidneys had the capability or potential to auto-regulate their, the pressure is between 80 to 180 millimeter of pressure, renal perfusion pressure is between 180 to 180 mmHg. This has been identified. मगर जब renal vascular smooth muscles को पैरालाइज किया, हमने एक ड्रग इंसर्ट किया, तो रीनल का जो वैस्कुलर स्मूथ मसल्स है अगर उनको पैरालाइज किया गया या उनकी फंक्शनिंग को डिक्रीज किया गया, उसके बाद देखा गया कि ये जो मैकेनिज्म है, जो ऑटो रेगुलेटरी मैकेनिज्म है, ये कोलैप्स कर गया, राइट। व्हाट डज इट इंप्लाई? इट इंप्लाइज दैट दिस ऑटो रेगुलेटरी मैकेनिज्म फर्स्टली ये किडनी के अंदर ही फिनोमेना है, पहली बात। दूसरी बात ये कि ये रीनल वैस्कुलर स्मूथ मसल के कारण से मेनली होता है। So if I want to say that what is the basic core component to have an auto-regulatory mechanism in the for the controlling the glomerular filtration rate in the kidney, I say it is the smooth muscles at the afferent arteriolar end. So that is what I say. अगर आपको याद हो, आपने स्कूल में हार्ट पढ़ा होगा, हार्ट में कंडक्शन मैकेनिज्म पढ़ा होगा, उसमें पेस मेकर ऑफ हार्ट पढ़ा होगा, जहां पर कॉन्ट्रैक्शन इनिशियली स्टार्ट होता है, ऐसे नो, right? So you can say the main controlling factor for the auto-regulatory mechanism in the renal system to control the GFR is basically the stretch created by at the afferent smooth muscle. Afferent arterioles के जो smooth muscles है, वहां पर जब stretch होता है वो auto-regulate करता है, right? So that is why we term it as a renal auto-regulatory mechanism. अभी आप देखिए, ये मीन आर्टीरियल ब्लड प्रेशर है और ये ग्लोमेरुलर फिल्ट्रेशन रेट है। जब मीन आर्टीरियल ब्लड प्रेशर 80 होता है, नॉर्मली हम क्या बोलते हैं 100 के करीब होता है हम बोलते हैं, मगर अगर ये 80 की तरफ ड्रॉप होता है तब जीएफआर 180 लीटर्स पर डे होता है। अगर ये 180 तक जाता है तब भी 180 लीटर्स पर डे जीएफआर होता है, मगर द मोमेंट इट चेंजेस, वंस द प्रेशर इज मोर देन 180, यू सी इट इज राइजिंग, जीएफआर इज इंक्रीजिंग। और जब ये 80 से कम होता है, जितना वो कम होगा उतना जो GFR है वो ड्रॉप कर जाएगा, और ड्रॉप बहुत फास्टर होता है, right? Because this auto-regulatory mechanism, the intrinsic auto-regulatory mechanism is not functioning in this level, right? So this is how it gets represented. Now we'll first talk about the myogenic mechanism. जब भी आर्टीरियल ब्लड प्रेशर या मीन आर्टीरियल ब्लड प्रेशर इंक्रीज होता है, तो एफरेंट आर्टेरियोल्स में जो वैस्कुलर स्मूथ मसल्स है वो स्ट्रेच होती है, क्योंकि उनमें प्रेशर आता है तो वो स्ट्रेच आउट हो जाती है. The moment they stretch out, there is an influx of the calcium ion from the extracellular fluid into those muscle fibers. जब इन मसल फाइबर्स में कैल्शियम एंटर होता है, इट डायरेक्टली कॉजेस वेसोकंस्ट्रिक्ट. तो ये वेसोकंस्ट्रिक्ट करता है. जब ये वेसोकंस्ट्रिक्ट करेगा तो क्या होगा? इट प्रिवेंट्स excessive renal blood flow to that particular organ. अब हम उल्टा देखते हैं. जब स्मूथ मसल वॉल जो है एफरेंट आर्टेरियोल की रिलैक्स होती है, कब होती है? whenever the arterial mean arterial blood pressure has decreased, that means whenever there is a vasodilatation, what is going to happen? More amount of the blood is coming into and it will increase the GFR till it comes back to the normal, right? So this is how the myogenic mechanism actually works, by the stretch created at the stretch of the afferent arteriole, specifically stimulating the vascular smooth muscle cell, right, causing the influx of the calcium ion. Systemic blood pressure बढ़ गया, renal arterial blood pressure बढ़ गया, afferent arteriole में pressure बढ़ गया, उस कारण से afferent arteriole की जो walls है वो स्ट्रेच हो गई, वहां से कैल्शियम एक्स्ट्रा सेल्यूलर से इंट्रासेल्यूलर में आया. कैल्शियम अंदर आने की वजह से जो एफरेंट आर्टेरियोल है उसका कॉन्ट्रैक्शन हुआ, उसका कॉन्ट्रैक्शन होने से उसका वैस्कुलर रेजिस्टेंस बढ़ गया. उसका जब वैस्कुलर रेजिस्टेंस बढ़ गया तो देयर विल बी a slight amount of change in the arterial blood flow, so there will be minimum change going to the capillary pressure, so it will try to minimally affect the GFR. अगर ये कॉन्ट्रैक्ट नहीं करता और वो सिस्टमिक आर्टेरियल हाई प्रेशर हमारे ग्लोमेरुलम में चला जाता, तो उससे क्या होता? हमारा ग्लोमेरुलर फिल्ट्रेट जो है वो काफी हाई हो जाता और वो रीअब्जॉर्ब नहीं होता, तो हमारे यूरिन का एक्सक्रीशन पावर ज्यादा हो जाता, तो हमारे को लॉस ज्यादा हो जाता, हमारा ब्लड वॉल्यूम डिक्रीज कर जाता. सो इट कुड हैव कोलैप्स्ड आवर कार्डियोवैस्कुलर सिस्टम. सो दैट इज व्हाई दिस मायोजेनिक मैकेनिज्म, बाय changing the diameter of the afferent arteriole, increasing the resistance, will cause an effect on the blood flow and minimum change on the blood capillary pressure as well, although the systemic arterial blood pressure is high. उसके बावजूद भी वो minimal change करेगा, glomerular filtration करेगा. यहां तक सही है? Is this part myogenic mechanism of autoregulatory mechanism clear to you people? Yes, yes. Okay. So I will be going to the second mechanism. सेकेंड मैकेनिज्म हमने जो बात की थी, टिब्यूलो ग्लोमेरुलर फीडबैक मैकेनिज्म. हम सिंपल बात करते हैं, किसी भी कारण से, we don't know the reason, it can be any reason, by any reason, if the glomerular filtration rate increases, glomerular filtration rate बढ़ गया मतलब filtrate of the solute is going to increase. इसका मतलब ट्यूब्यूल्स पे सोल्यूट का लोड ज्यादा हो जाएगा. अगर सोल्यूट का लोड ज्यादा हो जाएगा तो सोडियम आयन कंसंट्रेशन जो DCT डिस्टल कन्वोल्यूटेड ट्यूब्यूल में वो बढ़ जाएगा. अब ये वहां पर अगर आपको याद हो, मैंने JG apparatus में मैक्यूलर डेंसा की बात की थी. अब मैक्यूलर डेंसा में केमिकल सेंसर्स हैं, और वो तब भी मैंने बात की थी, वो केमिकल सेंसर्स जो है वो चेंज इन सोडियम क्लोराइड कंसंट्रेशन और पोटेशियम कंसंट्रेशन, मेनली द सोडियम आयन कंसंट्रेशन, उसको चेंज को रिफ्लेक्ट करता है. सो व्हाट विल हैपन वंस देयर इज एन इंक्रीज्ड sodium ion delivery to the DCT, it will cause increased reabsorption of the sodium by the macular densa cell. अगर वो होगा तो सोडियम पोटेशियम ATPase की जो एक्टिविटी है वो बढ़ जाएगी. क्यों? क्योंकि वहां जो मैकेनिज्म ऑफ रीअब्जॉर्प्शन ऑफ सोडियम होता है वो एक्टिव होता है, और एक्टिव में कौन सा पंप यूज होता है? सोडियम पोटेशियम ATPase पंप. ये हमने जनरल फिजियोलॉजी में पहले भी पढ़ा है. अगर हमने सोडियम पोटेशियम ATPase पंप की एक्टिविटी बढ़ रही है बिकॉज सोडियम इज गेटिंग रीअब्सॉर्ब्ड बाय एक्टिव मैकेनिज्म, नॉट पैसिव. प्रॉक्सिमल कन्वोल्यूटेड ट्यूब्यूल में वो पैसिवली एब्सॉर्ब हो रहा है, मगर जब ये मैक्यूला डेंसा पर पहुंच रहा है वहां पर एक्टिवली एब्जॉर्ब हो रहा है. सो इफ इट इज गेटिंग एक्टिवली एब्जॉर्ब बाय अ सेकेंडरी एक्टिव पंप, इसका मतलब उसको कहीं से एनर्जी डिराइव हो रही है. वो कहां से होगी? वो हर बार सोडियम पोटेशियम एटीपीज की एक्टिविटी से हो रही है. इसका मतलब एटीपी का हाइड्रोलिसिस भी इंक्रीज हो रहा है. हाइड्रोलिसिस ऑफ एटीपी इंक्रीज होगा तो एडेनोसिन का फॉर्मेशन बढ़ जाएगा. Once there is increase in the adenosine formation, what is going to happen? Adenosine will bind to its receptor. Adenosine जब अपने receptor पर bind करेगा, it will receptor where? In the JG apparatus. तो adenosine का जब receptor bind करेगा, it will increase the calcium production and causes the molecules to be or enzymes to be released from the macula densa cell, which will cause constriction of the afferent arteriole. जब constriction of afferent arteriole होगा तो automatic blood flow कम हो जाएगा. blood flow कम हो जाएगा तो GFR भी कम हो जाएगा. Again the same thing. What is going to happen? जब GFR कम हो जाएगा तो automatically it will come back to the normal. तो पीछे वाले में हमने जब मायोजेनिक की बात की थी, दैट इज ब्लड प्रेशर इंक्रीज हुआ, रीनल ब्लड प्रेशर इंक्रीज हुआ, उस कारण से स्ट्रेच हुआ, तो वो मायोजेनिक होगा. मगर यहाँ पर क्या है? यहाँ पर अब चूंकि जीएफआर बढ़ गया, मायोजेनिक तो इफेक्ट करेगा मगर कुछ हद तक जीएफआर बढ़ गया, मगर वो मैक्यूला डेंसा में सोडियम का रीअब्जॉर्प्शन हो रहा है, जिस कारण से एटीपी का हाइड्रोलिसिस हो रहा है और एडेनोसिन रिलीज हो रहा है, which in turn will cause the increased calcium production, which in turn cause constriction of the afferent arteriole. तो constriction of the afferent arteriole हो जाएगा तो GFR decrease हो जाएगा. Right? So this is the tubuloglomerular mechanism, which basically is due to the effect happening at the macula densa in the JG apparatus, not because of the stretch. Same thing is being explained. GFR has increased. Someone has written anything? Okay, nothing. GFR has increased. The flow through the tubule increases. The flow pass moves to the macula densa increases. There is a paracrine distribution of the macula densa to the afferent. वो हमने JG apparatus में पढ़ा ही है. So there will be constriction of the afferent arteriole. Resistance बढ़ जाएगा. Hydrostatic pressure glomerular टफ्ट में डिक्रीज हो जाएगा. अगर हाइड्रोस्टैटिक प्रेशर ग्लोमेरुलर, क्योंकि ब्लड फ्लो कम हो गया, वेजो कंस्ट्रिक्शन हो गया, तो फ्लो भी तो कम हो गया ना, तो 5 to 55 होता था, वो डिक्रीज होगा, वो डिक्रीज होता है तो जीएफआर भी डिक्रीज हो जाएगा. सी हियर, ये सिग्नल बिकॉज ऑफ चेंज इन द सोडियम क्लोराइड कंसंट्रेशन. अगेन द सेम. अब मान लीजिए एडेनोसिन बहुत सारा निकला, उस कारण से वेजो कंस्ट्रिक्शन हो गया एफरेंट आर्टेरियोल में यहाँ पर, मगर उसको कंट्रोल भी तो करना पड़ेगा ना, उसको बैलेंस भी तो करना, तो लोकली नाइट्रिक ऑक्साइड निकलेगा विच विल कॉज वेजो डायलेटेशन. तो ये बैलेंस क्रिएट करता ताकि बहुत सारा भी डिक्रीज नहीं हो जीएफआर, तो वो उसको बैलेंस करने के लिए ताकि वो नॉर्मल जीएफआर लेवल तक आ जाए. एडेनोसिन तब तक काम करेगा जब तक जीएफआर डिक्रीज हो जाएगा, तो वो वापस उसको नॉर्मल करने के लिए वेजोडायलेटरी इफेक्ट ऑफ एंडोथेलियल डिराइव्ड नाइट्रिक ऑक्साइड आ जाता है. राइट? सी हाउ इट इज हैपनिंग. सी सोडियम पोटेशियम एटीपी पंप, ये सेकेंडरी एक्टिव पंप है विच इज टर्म्ड एज 1 सोडियम 1 पोटेशियम 2 क्लोराइड आयन पंप. ये सेकेंडरी पंप है. सेकेंडरी पंप इसलिए है क्योंकि ये डिपेंड कर रहा है प्राइमरी पंप ऑफ सोडियम पोटेशियम एटीपीज. तो ये एक सोडियम एंटर हुआ, 3 सोडियम बाहर जाएंगे, तो यहाँ सोडियम की कंसंट्रेशन जो है वो डिक्रीज हो जाएगी. राइट? सो व्हाट इज गोइंग टू हैपन? It is going to affect the which acts on the JG cell, which will secrete renin. Now this renin by angiotensin RAS system will cause vasoconstriction of the, what it will cause? Vasoconstriction of the afferent arteriole. ये वही सीक्वेंस है जो हमने अभी तक एक्सप्लेन कर दी. बट हियर इट इज बिकॉज ऑफ इंक्रीज डिलीवरी ऑफ सोडियम आयन क्लोराइड आयन एट द लेवल ऑफ मैक्यूला डेंसा, which causes increased adenosine secretion, This increased adenosine secretion will act on the cells, causing the increased calcium production as well as the release of renin, activating the RAS system. Thus, it will affect the cause the vasoconstriction of the afferent arteriole. जब vasoconstriction afferent arteriole का हो जाएगा, उस कारण से कैपिलरी हाइड्रोस्टैटिक प्रेशर जो है वो डिक्रीज हो जाएगा. कैपिलरी हाइड्रोस्टैटिक प्रेशर डिक्रीज हो जाएगा तो जीएफआर भी डिक्रीज हो जाएगा. मगर ये परसिस्टेंट नहीं रहता है. क्यों? देयर हैज टू बी अ बैलेंस. द जीएफआर शुड नॉट ड्रॉप टू लो, right? Otherwise it will cause an defect in the body. It should not decrease to a very great extent. उसके लिए local vasodilatory components like endothelial derived nitric oxide release हो जाता है और वो इसको balance कर देता है. So this is how what happens. Macula densa, increase of renin, increase of aldosterone 2, efferent arteriole, and then effects on the afferent arteriolar system. Again, the GFR and the renal blood flow 80 to 180 mmHg. Again the same autoregulatory. These are different. See, अभी ये नीचे वाला आप ग्राफ देखिए, ऊपर वाला ग्राफ तो आपको समझ आ गया. जो ब्लू लाइन है it depicts the renal blood flow, red is the renal glomerular filtration rate और देखिए ये यहाँ पर प्लेट्यू में आता है. अभी आप यूरिन आउटपुट और आर्टीरियल ब्लड प्रेशर देखिए कितना कंट्रोल्ड रहता है. जब 100 mmHg के करीब होता है, देखिए यहाँ पर 100 mmHg, आप देखो कितना यूरिन जा रहा है, 1.5 to 1.8 ml पर डे के हिसाब से निकल ज्यादा वो यूरिन आउटपुट को भी बढ़ा देता है, राइट? मगर जब 100 से कम होता है, एट द पॉइंट जब अगर ब्लड प्रेशर हमारा आर्टीरियल ब्लड प्रेशर जो है, मीन आर्टीरियल ब्लड प्रेशर जब हमारा 50 mmHg के करीब ड्रॉप करता है, उस टाइम पे यूरिन आउटपुट कितना है? जीरो विल बी द यूरिन आउटपुट. सो द किडनी का मेजर फंक्शन है कि हमारी बॉडी का ब्लड प्रेशर मेंटेन करे, और वो मेंटेन कैसे होता है? बाय चेंजिंग द जीएफआर. अगर वो जीएफआर चेंज नहीं करेगा तो यूरिन आउटपुट कंटिन्यूअसली निकलता जाएगा. वैसे ही ब्लड प्रेशर ड्रॉप कर रहा है और अगर यूरिन भी निकलता जाएगा तो वो ड्रॉप और ड्रास्टिकली करेगा. Fine. So this is an auto-regulatory mechanism to prevent large change in the GFR. क्योंकि अगर बहुत ज्यादा चेंज आएगा वो बहुत ज्यादा इफेक्ट करेगा यूरिनरी आउटपुट को, which in turn will affect the arterial system. एक बार अगर यूरिन से वो फ्लूइड जो है बाहर चला गया, हम उसको वापस तो नहीं भर सकते. हमें फिर फ्लूइड को रिप्लेनिश करना पड़ेगा, या तो आईवी फ्लूइड से या हमें ओरल इनटेक बढ़ाना पड़ेगा. तो कितना हम पी सकते हैं? आइडियली 2 से 3 लीटर के करीब दिन में पीते. अगर वो कंटिन्यूअसली निकलता जाएगा तो फिर तो हमें बहुत सारा, फिर तो पानी पीते रह जाएंगे, राइट? सो इट विल अफेक्ट ओवरऑल प्रेशर एट डिफरेंट ऑर्गन्स ऑफ द बॉडी. So that is why there is very importance of having an auto-regulatory mechanism of the renal blood flow, so that the glomerular filtration rate can be regulated to a very great extent, 80 to 180. अब देखिए कितना difference है, right? So this is the importance. These are the 3 graphs getting merged. अच्छा, अभी एक हमने देखा कि अगर हमारा ऑटो रेगुलेटरी कंपोनेंट जो है वो सही तरीके से काम कर रहा है, मतलब जीएफआर जो है 180 लीटर पर डे है, ट्यूबुलर रीअब्जॉर्प्शन हमने पढ़ा है 178.5 लीटर्स पर डे होता है, तो रूटीन आउटपुट कितना होगा? 1.5 लीटर्स पर डे. यहां तक तो हमने पढ़ा हुआ है, एम आई राइट? मान लीजिए ये ऑटो रेगुलेटरी मैकेनिज्म काम नहीं कर रहा है, तो क्या होगा? व्हाट वुड हैपन? कैन एनीवन टेल मी? मान लीजिए अगर भगवान ने ये ऑटो रेगुलेटरी मैकेनिज्म बिटवीन 80 to 180 mmHg का नहीं रखा होता, then what would have happened? Can anyone explain? Where is roll number 111? GFR will decrease, okay. Urine output would increase, okay. I'm just listening, huh? You may be right, you may be wrong. बोलिए भाई. GFR changes every time. We don't say changes, it fluctuates. That's a better word. More or less urine will be excreted, dehydration, okay. Roll number 111. 111 कहाँ है? Is he there? Patel Ratnam. Okay. Why don't you write your roll number? Ratnam, why don't you write your roll number? GFR decreases and urine formation increases. Okay. Roll number 9. I'm arbitrarily asking. Roll number 9, Anshu. I hope I remember the name correctly. Roll number 9 है अंशु. हाँ भाई बोलो, आंसर बोलो, थोड़ा मैकेनिज्म को और इलेबोरेट करो. रोल नंबर 27 है क्या? 27 रोल नंबर. सो रहे हैं. 79. गेट गोइंग टू. व्हाट डू यू मीन बाय गेट गोइंग टू? Mayank, blood volume will increase. Okay. Urine volume increases. रोल नंबर 79, ये गेट गोइंग टू क्या मतलब हुआ? यूरिन फॉर्मेशन इंक्रीजेस. रोल नंबर 1, GFR increases as the smooth muscles do not constrict. Okay. So what? GFR बढ़ गया तो GFR बढ़ जाएगा. So what? फिल्टर ज्यादा होगा. More urine, more water loss. Good, good, very nice. Very nice. Okay. Yeah. If there would be no auto regulation, then what would be the outcome? अगर ब्लड प्रेशर 100 से 125 mmHg चेंज होता है, से फॉर एग्जाम्पल, तो कितना परसेंटेज देयर विल बी इंक्रीज इन द GFR बाय 25%. मतलब GFR 180 से 225 लीटर्स पर डे के करीब होगा. ठीक है. अब रीअब्जॉर्प्शन रेट तो कांस्टेंट ही है, 178.5 के करीब, वो तो फिक्स्ड ही है ना, क्योंकि टिब्यूल का लेंथ सेम है, टिब्यूल का रेट सेम है, रिसेप्टर्स नंबर सेम है. तो यूरिन आउटपुट कितना हो जाएगा? 46.5 liters per day. So imagine how much urine output will be there. So what will happen to the plasma? Plasma volume को क्या होगा इस कंडीशन में? ब्लड वॉल्यूम एंड यूरिन इंक्रीज होगा. ब्लड वॉल्यूम तो बेटा डिक्रीज हो जाएगा. इतना जब यूरिन में ही निकल गया तो वॉल्यूम बचेगा किधर? तो हमारी बॉडी तो पूरी कोलैप्स कर जाएगी. ये तो मैं आपको बता रही हूँ. अगर ब्लड मीन आर्टीरियल ब्लड, सी डोंट फॉरगेट, आई एम नॉट टॉकिंग अबाउट द आर्टीरियल ब्लड प्रेशर, सिस्टोलिक डायस्टोलिक नहीं बोल रही हूँ मैं, मीन आर्टीरियल ब्लड प्रेशर की बात कर रही हूँ. इट विल बी टॉक्ड इन डेप्थ जब आपको कार्डियोवैस्कुलर सिस्टम पढ़ाया जाएगा. What is the difference between mean arterial, systolic, diastolic, pulse pressure? ठीक है, I will not go into the details. So mean arterial blood pressure एक normal healthy individual में around 100 mmHg होती है. जब ये 100 मान लीजिए 100 से 125 mmHg हो जाए किसी भी कारण से, ये तो माइल्ड इंक्रीज. अगर ये इतना हो जाता है तो GFR ऑटो रेगुलेटरी मैकेनिज्म है नहीं, तो GFR कितना 25% के करीब लगभग GFR बढ़ जाता है, क्योंकि वॉल्यूम इतना ज्यादा बढ़ जाता है. तो 180 के बदले वो GFR बहुत सारा इंक्रीज हो जाएगा. डेफिनेटली यस, हाइपर कंसंट्रेशन ऑफ द प्लाज्मा विल बी देयर. क्यों? क्योंकि वॉल्यूम ऑफ द फ्लूइड इन द प्लाज्मा इज गोइंग टू बी डिक्रीज. तो ऑस्मोलैरिटी बढ़ जाएगी. ऑस्मोलैरिटी बढ़ जाने की वजह से जो आसपास जो ऑर्गन्स में सेल्स है वहां से फ्लूइड निकल जाएगा. आपने वो प्रोसेस ऑफ ऑस्मियोसिस तो पढ़ा ही है. हायर टू लोअर कंसंट्रेशन. अभी सेल्स के अंदर मान लीजिए ब्रेन सेल है, ब्रेन सेल में ज्यादा है और जो बाहर उसमें जो फ्लूइड है वो कम है प्लाज्मा में. तो नॉर्मली क्या होता था, कैपिलरीज से सेल के अंदर जाता था. अभी उल्टा हो जाएगा. अभी वाटर जो है वो ब्रेन सेल से निकल के कहाँ चला जाएगा? वो कैपिलरी सिस्टम में जाएगा. तो सेल क्या हो जाएगी? कॉन्स्ट्रिक्ट हो जाएगी. क्रीनेशन आपको याद हो, मैंने आपको हाइपर हाइपो कंसंट्रेशन के बारे में बताया था. Can renal failure occur due to less reabsorption in absence of auto-regulatory mechanism? Not less reabsorption, because auto-regulatory mechanism does not deal with the reabsorption part. It is mainly focusing about how much amount of the renal perfusion or the renal blood is coming to the glomerular tufts. So how the GFR gets regulated. It has nothing to do, not much to be done with the reabsorption part. But yes, whenever there is an autoregulatory mechanism failure, it leads to a renal failure. Why? Because the GFR is not getting controlled. That GFR in turn will not allow the reabsorption will be at a very fixed rate. It may not increase to a very great extent. So proportion of the filter will be much, much higher than the reabsorption. So maximum amount of the fluid will be lost in the urine. तो अभी अगर आपने पीछे वाला hypertension induced injury could occur, yes, very true, yes, it can occur. अगर आपने पीछे वाला ग्राफ वापस से मैं आपको दिखाती हूँ, let me show the graph, earlier one. This graph, you see what is happening here. जब प्रेशर देखिए, रीनल ब्लड फ्लो जब ज्यादा होता है, वो कब ज्यादा होगा? जब प्रेशर ज्यादा होगा, जब वॉल्यूम ज्यादा होगा. तो जितना ज्यादा बढ़ रहा है, यूरिन आउटपुट कितना प्रोपोर्शन में बढ़ रहा है. एक ऑटो रेगुलेटरी मैकेनिज्म में कुछ हद तक तो वो रेगुलेट कर लेता है, बट आफ्टर दैट इट इज नॉट एबल टू रेगुलेट. सो व्हाट इज हैपनिंग, दैट द प्रेशर इज गोइंग बियॉन्ड द ऑटो रेगुलेटरी मैकेनिज्म. अब अगर ऑटो रेगुलेटरी मैकेनिज्म होता ही नहीं तो क्या होता? ये जीएफआर का भी लाइन स्ट्रेट होता, यूरिन आउटपुट का भी स्ट्रेट हो जाता, इनिशियली रीनल ब्लड फ्लो भी स्ट्रेट हो जाता, बाद में वो डिप कर जाता, क्योंकि ब्लड इतना है ही नहीं जो वो फिल्ट्रेट में आ जाता. Right, so it would have been a very, very dangerous condition. So we need to understand the autoregulatory mechanism, and the GFR को हमें अच्छे से इसीलिए समझना जरूरी है, because it's not only helpful for you to write an answer in physiology exam, but it is going to make you understand every disorder in subsequent clinical field. नॉर्मली अगर किसी इंडिविजुअल में अगर लिवर फंक्शन भी डिरेंज होता है तो उसका इफेक्ट आज नहीं तो कल किडनी पर आता ही आता है. तो ऐसा नहीं है कि वो ऑब्सोल्यूशन में चलता है. सो यू शुड बी अंडरस्टैंडिंग अबाउट द जीएफआर टू अ वेरी ग्रेट एक्सटेंट. सो इफ आई टॉक अबाउट द कैरेक्टरिस्टिक फीचर, जस्ट a wrap up summary of it, that it is very rich. It has a high flow circulation, around 20 to 25% of the cardiac output. It has it has a portal circulation by having two set of capillaries before and after draining into the vein. It has high permeability because of the presence of the glomerular filtrate or capillaries. It is a high pressure in the glomerular capillaries. It's around 45 to 55 compared to any other part of the body. The pressure in the peritubular capillary, that is the second half of the capillaries of the renal circulation, it is a low pressure so that it can absorb more and more solutes and fluid, and it has a high degree of auto-regulation. So that was all what we had to talk about the capillary glomerular filtration rate. Now, so next class at 12 we'll be starting up with the tubular functions of the tubule part of the